What's going on, everyone? So, the asking price for Andrew Wiggins seems to be pretty insane, right? They want Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, and their first round pick for Wiggins. Now, look, we're 3 months away from training camp. There's still a lot of time. A great example was the Utah trade, right? Didn't end up happening around the training camp, but originally Utah's price was like ridiculous. They wanted both first unprotected. They wanted like all the young guys. They wanted everything. They wanted the farm and then somebody get off for Russell Westbrook. But then once we got closer to training camp, all of a sudden it was like, okay, fine, one of them can be unprotected. You could keep this guy. And everything started to change. And then once they got like literally days from training camp, it's like, okay, fine, still want the two first, but they can both be unprotected. And then ultimately we waited till the trade deadline. And then you ended up getting the trade for only one protected first. But the reason I use that example is because the price kept dropping closer we got training camp. And that's usually how it goes. Because teams kind of want to know what it, like, especially coaches and stuff, they want to know what the roster looks like. You know, if you're a coach, you don't want to end up doing a trade in the middle of training camp. And now you got 3 new guys injected into your lineup that you have to kind of figure out how you're going to utilize them and catch them up to speed. You want to have everything set, ready to go. And then whatever trade you make at the trade deadline, those are usually like small minor trades, right? Just little key upgrades here and there. So I do expect, Andrew Wiggins price, stuff like that to drop. But there's also the potential it doesn't, right? So one guy that the Lakers supposedly have been linked to, there was kind of these conflicting reports where like Lakers are active in trying to acquire him. And then some reports were like, no, that's overblown. They just kind of made a phone call, right? Is John Collins. Right? Like, now, look, Andrew Wiggins is better suited as a 3 than John Collins, but John Collins gives you everything Andrew Wiggins does and then some, right? He's 6'10", he's lengthy, he's athletic, he's, knock down the 3 ball with consistency, can defend out on the perimeter, defend out at the rim, right? I mean, even you saw him at times in the Jazz kind of defending in kind of the box of the 3, right? Like on the strong side, right? So I'm trying to think of like offsets in case you can't get Andrew Wiggins. Ideally, you'd like to switch LeBron to the 3 and then John Collins to the 4, but maybe you could do something where on offense, LeBron is at the 4, right? Or at the 3, because he wants to be more perimeter oriented anyway, but he's kind of hanging around and slotted in as your 3, but wherever the action is where he's at. And then John Collins could be your 4, which he's just going to be spotted up in the weak side corner anyway, right? And so he can operate on your 4 on offense, but on defense, you could have John Collins out at the 3 defending out on the perimeter with LeBron at the 4. So you can kind of, basically do your lineup based on matchups. Still gives you size, still gives you athleticism, still gives you defense, gives you 3-point shooting, right? He basically gives you a more athletic Rui Hachimura, right? I don't hate the idea of going and landing a John Collins, especially if he's cheaper than an Andrew Wiggins, which he should be. He should be much cheaper than an Andrew Wiggins, right? I would love Andrew Wiggins, but it also has to make sense for the Lakers. The Lakers can't sell the farm to go and land a Andrew Wiggins, and then now you can't solve any of your other needs, and now it's just this mess, right? And John Collins is 27 years old, so he's younger than Andrew Wiggins. On top of that, his contract, he is on an expiring contract, so kind of keeps the flexibility. You could sign him to, a 1-year deal next year if you want to end up, preserving the cap flexibility. He's making $26.5 million, so basically $27 million, which is slightly less than what Andrew Wiggins is making. So you could still do something like Rui and a Gabe Vincent or something like that. But obviously it depends on what would the Utah Jazz be willing to part with in order to trade for John Collins, right? Like how could that work? Maybe it's because now that you have Ayton, I mean, I would still love Walker Kessler, but now you don't really need to go target Walker Kessler, so you can kind of shift focus on a John Collins, because usually when we talked about it, it's like, hey, can you get John Collins and a Walker Kessler, or Walker Kessler and then also add John Collins to maybe kind of justify the assets you're ponying up or whatever, where I just think now maybe you can just go get a John Collins straight up. Maybe you're given a couple pick swaps, the later pick swaps, right? Like, hey, we'll give you, we're not going to give you Connect, we're not going to give you, a first or anything like that, but tell you what, we'll remove the protection on the 2027 pick, right? And then we'll give you a pick swap for doing service. It's probably more than they would get for John Collins anyway. It's like, hey, would you rather that, or would you rather just lose John Collins for nothing in the offseason? Because you know how many teams are lining up trade for John Collins? It's not because John Collins isn't a great player. It's like how many teams, one, need somebody like him, two, or need to go trade $28 million in order to go acquire a guy like him, plus also give up assets, plus also he's an expiring contract and he could just leave, right? There's a lot that goes into it, right? John Collins is fantastic and he'd be great on several teams, right? And John Collins could kind of be our, Aaron Gordon type, right? Athletic, long, lengthy, versatile, kind of do the dirty work, do the hustle plays. Guy is a guy that go get you 20 on any given night, right? Rebounds the basketball. He said, I would put John Collins at the 4 on offense because he can rebound, hit the open 3, be that lob threat alongside a Luka Doncic, right? So kind of gives you Ayton and John Collins as that athletic lob threat. And then on defense, John Collins is helping to defend out on the perimeter, and you got that kind of at least size, length, and athleticism because he is athletic. He can shuffle his feet well. He can stay in front of guys, right? It's better than what you currently have, which is, Luka, Austin Reeves, and Rui Hachimura, right? I'd rather have a John Collins out there because at least he has the athleticism to stay in front of guys and at least the size and length to make things difficult, right? And then also, if he's defending out on the perimeter and we get the rebound, you can have just John Collins just leak out and go. And he's athletic and high flying enough. I mean, Luka with those, the full court passes, or LeBron with the full court passes, you might be able to just generate a bunch of fast break transition points just by John Collins defending out on the perimeter. And now you have the leak out man, right? Like all those things could be beneficial to the Lakers if you're able to make that work. Again, like I'd probably prefer Andrew Wiggins. I mean, I would. It's not probably. I would prefer Andrew Wiggins, but not at the price in which you have to give up. Also, you got to keep in mind, right? Like Miami wants to trade Andrew Wiggins because they want to get off of his money for next season. They want to clear cap space in case Luka becomes available or they can end up landing another guy. They want to kind of retool next season, right? So there's a value in that in and of itself. Right, so that needs to be equated in. Usually when teams want to get off somebody, they have to pony up assets in order to do that. Right? I mean, even KCP, Davis Caldwell-Pope, like Orlando had to give up assets to get off of KCP. Right? And he's a great player. He wasn't great with Orlando, but he's a year removed from being all defense, right? And one of the better 3-and-D guys in the league. So again, it's just you kind of look at the situation, you look at kind of what's at hand, and it makes sense to maybe if Andrew Wiggins' price continues to stay where it's at, pivot to a guy like a John Collins. Go look to a guy like a John Collins that maybe you can kind of make those changes, make those trades, and make those adjustments. I like the idea of John Collins. I mean, I've liked the idea of John Collins for a while now. I think he's a guy that, again, was a product of his environment. Now, this time last year, kind of had my question marks about John Collins. I wasn't super thrilled with John Collins, and it was nothing to do with John Collins. He was a great player. I've always liked John Collins. But you could see his confidence shot. You watched the seasons in Atlanta just kind of drop. Part of that was Atlanta. Part of that was just him. Because for whatever reason, Atlanta wanted to, dude, the guy was like a 20-10 guy from his rookie season. And every year was just great for them. And no matter what, they wanted to trade him. Right? So of course that's going to kill your confidence. So my thing was I don't know if we should take the flyer on a guy like John Collins on such long-term money, right? And if he doesn't work out, now you're kind of stuck. Where now we saw him in an actual role, getting actual consistency on a team that, wanted him, right? Hey, there might be the potential of the trade, but it's hey, in the meantime, we want you, you're going to play a big part. And you saw what he was able to respond with, which gave me the confidence, okay, that guy's still in there. Right? The guy that, people were hey, this guy, borderline all-star guy, he could come in and be that piece. So now I'm much more higher on John Collins now that we've actually seen, hey, if you give this guy a real role, real opportunity, consistency in minutes, he's the guy that can deliver. And so now that we've seen that, I'd like to go and acquire him, right? But what does he provide? Right? You look at last season, okay? Well, last season, in 40 games played, 31 games started. You got to keep in mind, Utah literally rested their starters for weeks at a time. So keep that in mind. But averaged 30.5 minutes per game, 13.3 field goal attempts per game, shot 52.7% from the field, shot 40% from three-point range on 3.7 attempts. 2-point range, shot 57.7% on 9.6 attempts, so basically 10 attempts, 58.3% EFG, shot just under 85% from the foul line on 4.1 attempts, grabbed 8 rebounds, including 2.2 offensive rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, a block, and 19 points per game. This guy that gives you a little bit of everything out there on the basketball court, can defend, can block shots, can be that help defender, right? Again, on defense, you can kind of line it up to where he's out on the perimeter, defending, blocking shots, right? Being the help defender, has his size, length, and athleticism. He's a guy that can go chase down those loose balls, right? The long rebounds, he can go get that. You have a 6'10" hyper athletic player out there that can do all that stuff. He's still young enough to be a foundation piece if it works for the long term. If LeBron, retires after this season, you could just slot John Collins in at the 4, right? And then you have basically a 19-8 guy that can give you a block and a steal as the help defender alongside Ayton or whoever else you have at the center position, right? You don't really skip a beat. Like, you still have the shot blocking, the athleticism, the rebounding, all that other stuff around Luka, and then go get and kind of carve out the rest of the rotation in that regard. I don't hate the idea of John Collins. We'll see. Obviously, it depends on what's the cost for John Collins, but if you can get him cheaper than Andrew Wiggins, probably prefer to go get him just because, again, the cost. He's younger, expiring contracts, so it gives you some flexibility. I don't think he's going to make $28 million a year going forward. So maybe you can get him on like $18 million and then trim, $10 million off your books or whatever. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, as we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.